Hello, good day to you, or good evening, whatever it might be. This is Andrew. I also sometimes go by Andreas. I would like to speak a little bit about some ideas I've had about how to assist society in becoming something different, in becoming a freer society that is based in health and well being and kindness, generosity, and freedom of movement because of health and well-being and kindness and generosity and a different type of consciousness than the one that is largely part of the human race on this planet at this time. Currently, we live with a lack-based consciousness that also is founded in authoritarian types of governance. And sometimes the governments themselves are not totally authoritarian, but their financial systems are. It's just that they're authoritarian in kind of an insidious way, and it's not overt. The free market societies, the capitalist societies of the world, they are actually very oppressive instead of being very much helpful and supportive of well-being and peace and harmony and happiness and freedom to move around the planet and do things and really enjoy one's life in ways that are desirable by any individual who is sane of mind and heart and interested in living a good life. So I'd like to begin talking about a concept, or I don't know if it's a concept, it's more of a construct, an idea for a construct of society that I think would work very well as long as humans would go through a change and think differently, feel differently, act a bit differently based upon different ways of thinking and feeling. And I think it would work very, very well. It could take a bit to make the changes. It's not something that could necessarily be implemented all at once. And it's not necessarily something that with current methodologies we could, or current methodologies and techniques and technologies that exist, we could orchestrate in a way that is totally known and therefore plannable. It may not be possible to plan for the changes that would occur in a totally specific way. However, I do think it's possible, and to me, it seems like a freer society and a much nicer way of living. So the idea, basically, is that people would more and more live in a way where they are doing things they want to do and living from the land with less support from government in terms of roadways and buildings and electricity and all of that stuff. But there's still support because people are healthier, they're becoming healthier, they're utilizing different modalities of healing to heal from sickness and stress and psycho-emotional dysfunction like anxiety disorders and depression and even things like panic attacks or really multiple types of disease sort of disease of mind, disease of emotion, and also bodily diseases. And so they're using different modalities to feel better, to be able to function better, and they're operating more on generosity than they have been before. They're being generous with other people. Part of what I see as working for a society that I want to create is this interest in different, one could call them hobbies, but activities, interest in different activities, interest in different parts of life, whether it be somebody who's really interested in architecture and construction, or somebody who's interested in forestry and forest management, including the harvesting of trees for the use in architecture, or someone who's interested in learning how to make bricks from mud and dirt and even straw, even some form of adobe or something like that, to get away from using wood so much for the building of buildings and the construction of buildings and homes. And really finding people who are just interested in different areas of what are now industry, cultivating those passions, cultivating those likes, and letting people work on things when they want to. In Amish culture, in some Amish culture, even now, the community comes together to put up structures like farms, like barn structures and home structures for different families. They don't have schooling per se in construction of barns or homes, but they do know how to do this. The whole of communities, at least the men of these communities, know how to construct these buildings. And they come together, the community comes together to put up these structures. And I imagine different parts of life, like farming, for example, being done by those who are passionate about these crafts, I'll say, these activities. And I'll say that instead of trades, because maybe there's not so much trade going on, or maybe there is some trade going on, but it's mostly based in, well, what is somebody interested in? What are they passionate about? What do they want to spend their time doing? And people become less concerned about the actual resources because they recognize, well, there are actually plenty of resources in the world. And part of what may happen with healing, emotional healing, psychological healing, with generosity that's being displayed, is that people actually want less stuff. They might become more interested in nature and want less stuff. And part of the whole thing about generosity is that there could be a lot of sharing that goes on. People might share their automobiles if they have fancy cars that are made and constructed with passion and love and care and artistry, and even artistry of engineering, instead of just being built in a factory, even though there may be some passion involved in that for some of these auto manufacturers. But there is a lack of care and generosity that I see as part of these corporations, which people who were interested and passionate about these, about doing these things, might actually, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. But anyway, I'll start with I'll move to something else. The idea is that for each part of industry that exists, So even for mining the materials for the production of the automobile, in the case of an automobile that uses a lot of similar materials as modern day automobiles, or going back in time as automobiles from the past, which used a different sort of materials, many of which were less synthetic. There might be people who are passionate about their creation, their production, even if their production consists of mining and refinement of what is being mined. And people could, by their own desire, just be doing things in a way that is productive. They might be healthfully, happily passionate about mining and about the production of materials through scientific laboratory approaches for new chemistry that produces new materials chemistry, to actually produce new materials that are, say, harmonious with nature and that are ecologically friendly and biologically friendly. And I see there being a potential for a society that manages the resources really well, but doesn't require expenditure and trade for the resources. If people were healthier, many of them would want less stuff, is something that I think. For me personally, I would like quite a lot of stuff, but one of the reasons I want so much stuff is because I want to take care of it, and I want to be able to share nice things with all sorts of people and other beings as well, different types of animals who like nice stuff. I mean, there are animals who like nice stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen a dog who really likes their blanket or their dog bed or their toys. They really, really like and love these things. And horses, for example, they may love their blankets too. Even cows. I think if you gave some cows blankets, they might really love blankets or even sweaters. I think I've seen a sheep wearing some sort of sweater before, and the sheep really, really liked it. It may have been a hat. I can't remember. It was some sort of knitwear, though, that the sheep was wearing. It might have been a hat and a sweater, but it looked really good. The sheep looked really good and was smiling and had a big smile on their face. And so, other animals like nice things too, and it's all about. One of the things I really want to do with the things that I want for myself, that I do want to be able to use as well, is to share these things. And I like variety, but I think if I knew enough people that had enough variety of places to live in different environments with beautiful architectures, I wouldn't want as many homes as I think I do right now. I would just visit in a way that was totally acceptable and even appreciated, because the people would be wanting visitors in the way that I see. And personally, I want to construct compounds and communities that are kind of like villages, small villages or little compounds, where they're comfortably constructed so that there can be 30, 40, 50 people on a small compound at a time, who have their own independent spaces for privacy and for sleeping and private activities, whatever they might be. And then there are other areas of the compound that exist for everybody to get together and sort of live together well and live together comfortably, without a necessity for too much building space or space within buildings and all of that, and too much usage of resources, if resources are considered somewhat limited, which, there are plenty of resources that have been used, and I think there are many resources that have been misused in the world in recent years and recent decades and just wasted. For example, what if some of these plastic bottles that have been used, what if some of the oil uh, that's been um, drilled for and I don't want to use the word harvested, because I mean it is kind of harvesting in a way, but it's not the same type of harvesting as harvesting a plant. I can't think of the word, but I hope you get the idea. The oil that's been taken out of the ground has, what if some of that oil had been transformed into materials used to actually build buildings. I'm losing my train of thought once again, so I'm not going to be able to speak on that anymore. But I actually had a specific thought there was a point to it. Anyway, I apologize. I do have issue with thinking sometimes, and I do have memory issues, at least now. So I don't really know how to help with that, and I can't just listen to the video right now with the device that I'm using to know what I was talking about, to try and refresh my memory. It would be a little bit complicated and take a while, and I might not remember by the time I got back from listening to the video to trying to make another, and I can't actually stop the video and restart the video to make more. I can't stop it in the middle. But anyway, that's the limitation of the device. So, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, wouldn't it be nice if people were living more based upon what they wanted to do and their passions, and we didn't have to depend on money for any reason, and we didn't, well, like, if I wanted an airplane, I could go to my local airplane builders or find airplane builders somewhere in the world. I mean, we have the capacity of connection right now, connectivity with the internet, to reach people in all sorts of wonderful places, really well, really easily. I could find, I mean, I know of an airplane manufacturer in Switzerland, that I could, in this situation, if this were a non-monetary society, I would be able to to reach them and say, hey, I actually would like a plane. And they might say, okay, well, we can customize a plane for you. We love building planes. We absolutely love building planes, and we have the capacity to build planes, or we can make the capacity to build a plane for you, quite readily. Actually, we could find people, we could source people from different parts of the world, and if you really like this type of plane and you want this plane, and I might say, yes, absolutely, I want this type of plane specifically. I know different planes from different places in the world, and you're the manufacturer that I want to have a plane from. And there could be people just doing things because they love to do them instead of for payment. And it could be that way for every part of everything in society. There are people who are passionate about so many different things, and for me personally, I am passionate about many different subjects, many different topics, and I've been disabled for much of my life, so I haven't been able to actually physically live very much, but I've done quite a bit of thinking, and there are many things that I would love to learn physically how to do. I would love to learn how to design an airplane and build an airplane. I'd love to know more about the materials that are used in airplanes, and even the chemistry that goes into the manufacturing processes and procedures, including the chemistry that goes into the production of different component parts for airplanes. I'd love to learn eventually about the electronics of airplanes, the computers that function for airplanes, or that are built and designed for airplanes, for the functioning of the airplanes. And some of these things can be applied to different trades, making an airplane in some ways might be similar to making an automobile or a ship, a ship that goes in water. or even eventually a spaceship. Um, but I think it would be so wonderful to get away from capitalist societies and monetary societies. I don't think we need money. I don't think there's that much scarcity in the world in reality. We just we don't manage our resources well. And one of the reasons I think we don't manage our resources well is because we as a society, as a global society, we are sick. I think part of getting away from sickness is connecting more with nature, is being part of nature, is remembering. I mean, for some of us, we've never known. I mean, there's something, I want to get to know nature and live in nature in a way that I've not ever done in this life. And I want to get away from urban society for long durations and live in wilderness, basically, not necessarily without structures and without some form of technology to use, like a cell phone here and there, or using a cell phone here and there, or using a laptop for some projects, or other forms of technology, like even an automobile for some transportation and some projects, when need be, to go pick something up from a store, or to get to the airport to go fly somewhere else or something like that. But largely, I think I'm losing my train of thought again. Okay, what was I thinking? I mean, it would be. I think if people become more naturalized. I like to use the word naturalized. It's a word that I came up with recently to describe the term of somebody becoming, say, more in tune with the actual circadian rhythm of the planet and its different seasons. So somebody is being tuned almost by the planet and by the seasons to go to sleep at a certain time and wake up at a certain time, or maybe sleep in 2 or 3 different segments throughout a night or throughout the day, that is specific to their body, that nature assists with, that the intelligence of nature and the intelligence of the planet assists with. And I believe that a phenomenon like that actually can and does happen. That nature will guide a human being to eat at the right times and sleep at the right times and even exercise and have activities at the right times, if a human being allows it to. And it's not about being constricted and confined to specific things. It's just to be put kind of like harmoniously in schedule, in sync even, with the planet and other other life forms on the planet. So it's a synchronization, if you will, of a human being through a naturalization process with the planet and its life, which might provide all sorts of health benefits, psycho-emotional benefits, meaning you become happier, more peaceful, more calm, more relaxed, have more vibrant vitality. One's diet might improve significantly, the way their body feels. They might heal from different sicknesses. Just kind of coming into a natural rhythm and pattern of sleep. That might mean that you're going to bed at 7 o'clock in the evening in some places and waking up at 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning, instead of going to bed at 9 or 10 or even midnight or 1 o'clock and waking up at 6 or 7 o'clock. I mean, I do think there is something to waking up earlier, largely, for a lot of people. But it might be that different people have different needs and that these needs might change. But I think with the process of naturalization, and a sort of a change in perspective about what makes a person happy, might really change the way we consume. And also, there's a part of consumption, and I mean consumption of resources via consumption of products like clothing and furniture and electronics, that kind of stuff. I mean, consumption of goods. Services are a bit different, although some services require goods to function, but services require manpower or person power. I'll say person power instead of manpower, because I want to be inclusive of females as well as males. But so person power or animal power. But the consumption of goods might change drastically with some perspective changes about what actually makes a person happy, and people might find that with, being inundated immersed, maybe not inundated, immersed in nature, and living a more harmonious life with societies that are really built with nature, that are developed with nature, to be harmoniously constructed with nature. So we're not destroying nature to build a city or to build a town. We're actually integrating our town into the natural environment in a harmonious way, including parts of a town like farming and all that stuff. I just lost my train of thought again, but I'll move to the thought I had about resources. I think one thing that is necessary to do is that we start constructing and building and designing and making goods to last. We start making things with quality, to be of a good quality, to be of a really good quality, in fact. I don't like to say high quality versus low quality. I like to say good quality versus poor quality. But I think if we start making products that are good quality, that are designed to last a long time, I mean, you could have a pair of shoes. You could own 10 pairs of shoes, 15 pairs of shoes, 20 pairs of shoes. You might get a pair of shoes every year. And these shoes could last you the rest of your life if they're designed properly. And I know that many shoes don't last that long time, but I also know that I've had a pair of shoes that I owned for 10 years, and the shoes could have been cleaned up and resold, and they would have continued to be good. I don't have them anymore because I've moved and kind of lost them, actually. But after 10 years of use, and they were the only shoes that I owned, I think, for about 10 years, they still were functional shoes. And they were still good shoes. They were still good quality shoes. And it may not be a lifetime for these shoes, but there are things like bags, backpacks and handbags and even luggage that can be designed in such a way that they could last a lifetime. And one could collect these things, but I think many people would say, I don't really want to collect that. All I want is one nice thing of luggage, and then I'll be done with it. And if we're living in a society that's generous, and shares things, when one is done with something, maybe you have a designer bag because there's a really nice designer that you like, and you have or designer luggage. When you're done with that designer luggage, you might pass it on to the next person because it's meant to last, and it could last more than a lifetime. It could become an heirloom. It could become vintage to antique to an heirloom. And you could pass on that luggage to somebody else, and somebody else might go, you had this for 15 years, and now I'm going to have it for 10 years, and then I'll pass it along to somebody else, and they'll have it for 5 years, and then somebody else will have it for another 20 years. And if we could manage our resources in a much better way, and we could do so in a way that is healthier for the environment, and where we're actually using a whole lot less in the way of resources. We're using fewer resources, maybe, but less in the way of resources, certainly. To describe the difference, fewer resources would describe how using fewer different types of resources. um, instead of the amount of resources in terms of like weight or area, um, weight or volume, that is. I was thinking of fabrics, like area of fabrics. Um, so like square meters, square yards, that sort of thing. But I don't know. I mean, the idea that I was beginning to speak about was just a different way of having society where we're actually living more freely. And I do have ideas about how to get to a society that requires no money anymore, where there can be some trade if people want to, but it could be like, hey, if you do this for me, I would love to do this for you, or how about I just do this for you anyway because I want to do this for you. I have a passion and I want to give you something for giving, and you can give me something too, and we'll meet on this and we'll get to know each other a little bit and have a brief friendship or even a longer standing friendship. Well, you're passionate about this, I'm passionate about this too, or otherwise you're passionate about this, I know it, I would love something that you create. And maybe where the farmers have a great relationship with the vendors, and the vendors have a great relationship with the consumers, and the farmers also have a great relationship with those who love to work on things like management of water and water resources and seed resources. And maybe even some of the farmers are producing the seeds themselves, because that seems like a sensible thing for some farmers to do. And ranchers producing, or not, breeding and raising livestock. They could have a wonderful relationship with the butchers, and the butchers are passionate about what they do, and also there are those who utilize the different parts of the animal from livestock rearing and slaughtering, so that the leather is given to the shoemakers and the bag makers, and there's a wonderful relationship that could be between those peoples that are passionate about what they do. And we could be living more based upon what we like to do and what we're passionate about doing. We could be living less on a clock. I mean, that's part of this. There seems to be a push to always produce, always produce, always produce, always produce, always produce. And the fact of the matter is, we don't need to produce really as much as we are producing. We really don't need to be producing as much as we're producing. In fact, there's a whole lot of waste that is produced that ends up getting thrown away, or now people are recycling it more, upcycling it, or change cycling it. I'll call it change cycling it. Just sort of changing what it is, reusing the materials for, let's say, there's old clothing that gets recycled into new clothing, sort of thing. But I don't think we need to be producing nearly as much stuff as we do. I mean, there are so many items that sit in stores for long periods of time getting unsold, or just sitting there not being sold, not getting unsold, but not being sold. And then they don't end up a lot of these things don't end up anywhere good. Some of them end up in places where there are people who are less privileged than those living in a more developed society. But some of these things just go to waste, basically. And yeah, I mean, I do have some ideas. I don't know if I can talk about them right now. The video is getting quite long. I do have some ideas about how to do this, and it's actually something that I'm trying to work on right now. Is basically something that will eventually lead into a society that can exist without money, without the need for money, without the need for jobs. I mean, part of what I see is people, like more types of people being able to work on a project because they're interested, and people just generously, lovingly saying, yeah, you're interested in this, come join. Here, we'll have a little class or something about that. You can learn by observation. We can teach you some things. Maybe there are teachers who are passionate about specific subjects and specific trades, and maybe there are specific trade schools that deal very specifically with what you need to learn for actually being part of different trades in a slightly different way, or even a significantly different way than schools operate now. And I see more people being able to get involved in ways that are just relaxed and healthier and more harmonious, where it's more about doing something one is passionate about, or what a group is passionate about, for the benefit of others, and where this production and this service for others actually benefits the beings that are serving too, because they're doing something they're passionate about, they're doing something they love, and they're appreciating the process of whatever it is they're doing. I see this as a true possibility, and it's something that I'm actually working on to create. It's a longer term goal, but I don't see any reason why this can't start sooner than later. And right now I'm actually trying to either raise some money or somehow own some property, significant property in Costa Rica that's about 1,000 acres, and there are other properties that I'm looking at that has forest land, like rainforest land, and also ranch land and agricultural land, farming land, that has quite a lot of potential on it. And there are a bunch of wonderful things that I want to do with this land that include being a space for naturalization of people, and also healing and transformation, personal transformation, from I'll say one constructive personality to a different personality, a new personality, a transformation of self, a change of self, a change of personality traits, from that which is less healthy and less functional to that which is healthier and more functional, happier, healthier, freer, more comfortable, more energized, more vibrant, more alive, more loving, more appreciative, more grateful, that sort of thing. More patient, more calm, more at ease. And it's something that I'm focused on right now, and I'd love to hear something from some folks who might have ideas about it, or ideas about how to acquire this land, because I don't really have any financial resources right now, but I do have a business plan that I'm putting together, and it's a pretty robust business plan actually, and it's definitely a functional business plan that is quite robust. There is more research I can do, but I'm taking my time with this. I'd love to get the property sooner than later. It's on the market right now. This one specific property that's over 1,000 acres in Costa Rica, and I'd love to hear something about others. But I mean, I want to create this property as a sanctuary, not just for humans, but for life, for forest life as well, for any life that ends up on the property. And it's a sort of a functional sanctuary that is intended to be multidisciplinary, to use one word. I don't know if disciplinary is really the word I'd prefer to use, but it means that there would be some farming, there might be some ranching, although very little ranching. The ranching might be for something else. I'd like to use it as quite actually an animal refuge for animals that have survived difficulties, that can't necessarily be in the wild, or are being rehabilitated to go to be brought back into the wild. A place for some schooling. Reforestation is something that I want to do on this property, so that some of the old growth forest that is near the property and on the property can actually expand, and there will be new growth forest that blends in with the old growth forest, with giving more space on a property with over 1,000 acres to for nature to to exist in wonderful, beautiful, diverse ways, and actually become more robust and stronger again, while humans are integrating within this space and becoming naturalized to live harmoniously within the rainforest in a comfortable and beautiful way. There's also a place where I'd like to see people live. I'd like for there to be an actual village of some sort. So there's school, there's village, there is even lodgings for a hotel for shorter stays. There's a healing center that I want to be part of it, and transformation center that could incorporate things like yoga and Tai Chi, Qigong, different exercise modalities that are also spiritual modalities for energetic change and change of body, change of physiology, change of mind, change of consciousness. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that I want to do, and it's all part of this robust business plan that I have going on. And I would love to see more of this stuff going on around the world, because I think it's time that people start doing this. I mean, this is my passion right now. This is something that I've really wanted to do for a long time. I have many things that I want to do, but this is something I strongly want to do. Right now I'm homeless, and this would be a home of mine. I want multiple homes. I want to be able to travel and spend months at a time in different locations. So I'd want to be able to spend 3 or 4 months in Costa Rica, and then go to Alaska for 3 or 4 months, and then go to somewhere in Norway or Sweden for a couple of months, and then go to Hawaii for 3 or 4 months, and then maybe Montana or something like that. I don't really know. Africa, go spend some time in Africa, do the same sorts of things in different places, and create these villages that are harmoniously designed, that are actually designed, scientifically designed, and also spiritually designed. So utilizing the senses and awareness of those, of peoples like medicine people, spiritualists, and shamans, to intuitives and telepaths, if there are telepaths available, to actually know how to work with the land and the animals and the beings of the land, the life of the land, to create more harmonious living circumstances or living situations with the life there, in ways that will allow the whole of the society, that includes the natural society, so animals and plants and insects and fungi and different forms of life, bacteria even, to thrive. Anyway, so I've been talking about this for a little while. This is stuff that I'm passionate about and that I really am focused on creating. I want to work with some people about this, with regard to this stuff. I want some connections to make. I want to buy this property in Costa Rica, plus multiple others. I'm looking at properties now. I'm ready to go. I'm dealing with some health issues right now, but part of what I want to do with this land is use it to heal myself. And I am somewhat convinced that I can heal on these lands, naturalizing myself in a really beautiful way, while learning to work with others who work in healing, work in different forms of healing and transformation of humans for the improvement of human life and the improvement of life on the planet. And I know of quite a few different modalities and personages that I could reach out to. I'm learning about more. I'm getting better connected, and it's going to take some time, but I'm really ready for this, and I hope to interact with some of you specifically about these things. And I hope that you may have some connections, and I hope that some of what I've said has inspired you to something, even to think about this idea for yourself. I mean, it would be great for you to take some of these ideas and say to yourself, well, I could actually do this myself, and even come back to me 5 years later and say, well, I've got this community over here. Would you like to join in some way? Would you like to be part of it? And I'd say, well, I've got these communities over here, and sure, I'd love to spend some time where you have community. And I'd love to get to know you. I'd love to meet you. I mean, the more of these harmoniously constructed and harmoniously functional parts of society that we have, because it is a different society, but it's meant to be integrated in the whole of the world. and it's meant to be eventually integrated with the whole of society, the whole of human society, in such a way where human society as we know it basically totally changes. And maybe not totally changes, but changes like maybe 60 to 75% of the way, where things are very much different, but some of the niceties are still there, or a lot of the niceties are still there, and even improved, because we've learned to construct things from a consciousness that is healthy and well, and is based in comfort and ease and well-being, and instead of based in stress and survival and difficulty and strain and competition. I'd love to get beyond competition. I don't think it's necessary. And I mean, this is what I'm speaking about is evidence of that. I want some of you to take some of these ideas. If you don't want to work with me, work on these ideas for yourselves. Come up with some even better ones. I've got some more ideas. I'm not going to share them right now. For ways of production that could help to meet budget requirements or financial requirements for purchasing some of this property, but I'm convinced that there are properties that can just be given away, where somebody might hear what I'm having to say and say, you know what, I've got 150 acres over here that I don't use, and there are some water resources on the property, which is something that I'm interested in, having water resources and water rights on the property, so like wells or river water that can be used, pond or lake water that can be used for living purposes and agricultural purposes, even production purposes on some properties eventually, with small manufacturing or even larger scale manufacturing, but not too large of a scale of manufacturing, because I don't think that's totally necessary. But anyways, I can foresee people saying, I've got this property, it's not being used for anything great, and this is a really good idea. Or I've got this property and it's been used, it was actually forested, and the forest has been cut down, but I'd like to see it repopulated, and you can do that, and you can use this property for some other reasons as well, and maybe it's a temporary lease. I mean, maybe we get to use the property for a while we develop something there, and then eventually it's like, okay, well, this is still my property, and I like to use it. I'd like to use it for the same purposes, but with other people or something like that. And I develop something for somebody and then let it go after 5 or 10 years, because this is long-term stuff. But anyway, I could see people letting go of property really quite easily, actually, and not being greedy about it with such a good cause, because this is about healing the world. This is about healing the world and transforming human society into what I would consider to be an actual civilization. I mean, right now, I don't believe that humans exist civilly in a very powerful way. I think there are parts of society that are becoming more civil, but I also think there are parts of society that are not civil at all, and that we haven't really had civilization as humanity. To me, civility is part of civilization, and civility is politeness and kindness and love, and is harmony, a type of harmony, and is sort of, it's fundamental to have some sort of peace, or at least a desire for peace, to have civilization. And I don't really see that in the difficult societal situations that we have currently. But anyways, that's something I'm looking to create, and I'm actively looking to create it. I've got only this really to focus on right now. I do have other things that I am focused on, but this is one of the most important things that I'm focused on, and I'm trying to create a home for myself as well, which is really important, because I'm technically homeless right now. But anyway, so I just let you know about some of what I'm doing and some of what I'm thinking, and it's been quite a lot. I hope it's been decently interesting to listen to me. I know I've talked about a number of things and stopped talking about things pretty abruptly because I lost my train of thought, and there may not have been a whole lot of coherence to some of the message that I've been speaking about, but I hope there's been some interesting stuff, and that some of it was coherent enough to actually be intelligible. And if not, I can hopefully go back and try to make things intelligible. But anyways, thanks for listening. Thanks for paying attention. I know I don't have much in the way of interesting video. I don't really have a stand for my cell phone to be able to not videotape, but video myself in a more comfortable way. And I'm in a temporary lodging situation where I don't have a great space to be able to video. So what you see is what you see if you're actually paying attention to the video. Hopefully it's mostly just about the audio and listening to what I have to say. But anyway, thanks for paying attention. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching if you have been watching. And I hope to hear from some of you about some ideas of how to make this idea of mine of getting this property and getting some properties to produce some communities, some little villages, and help people and help the world, and even have some business that could be profitable, because I still believe in profitable business. For now, I mean, I really do. I hope to communicate with some people that are interested in helping, and have some ideas, and have some resources, or have some connections with others, some relationships with others that can make a difference and actually bring this to fruition, help me to actualize it and realize this goal. So thank you so much. Much love and appreciation to all of you. And maybe you'll stop by sometime soon and watch another video if I make one, and if not, until whenever. Thank you so much.